Lorenzo's problem, if he inherited it from his mom, then it's genetic. And so you need to understand a little bit about genetics. Okay? Here's a picture of one of Lorenzo's cells. Now you guys have already looked at cells underneath the microscope, but you've looked at plant cells. I'm not waiting. You've got to get up and get ready. Okay? So this is what a plant cell looks like. Okay? Now inside of a plant cell is the nucleus, and the chromosomes are inside there. This should be all stuff you learned when you were in elementary school. Now, what you may have forgotten is that in the chromosomes that we have, every type of chromosome, like if you have a chromosome that looks like a little upside down P, then there's another chromosome very, very similar to it. So chromosomes come in pairs. Why is that? Because one chromosome comes from mom, and the other chromosome comes from dad. And so what you'll count here, you should count that there's 23 pairs of chromosomes. And they all look like each other, except for two in Lorenzo. These two, because these are the sex chromosomes. And it just so happens that the sex chromosomes are the reason, or the cause, for Lorenzo's disease. So in my next picture, I'm just going to focus on these two chromosomes and forget about the rest of the stuff. Okay? So if we look at really close at Lorenzo's sex chromosomes, we'll see that he has two different types. A long chromosome called an X chromosome, and then a shorter chromosome called the Y chromosome. The X chromosome has all the genetic traits for femaleness, plus other stuff. And the Y chromosome has all the traits for maleness. So down here, if you were to look at genes, you would find genes for ovaries here, and over here would be the counterpart to that, which would be testes. A gene for maybe the fallopian tube, and here would be for the sperm duct or something like that. But what we're interested in is this part of the X chromosome, which is way up to the top, far away from where there's anything on a Y, right here. This is the site that codes to make the protein, that makes the enzyme, that chops up long-chain fatty acids. This is what's bad in Lorenzo. He has a bad ALD gene. And what's that mean? Well, if you got a bad gene, you're going to make a bad protein. If you got a bad protein, then you can't chop up saturated fats. And if you can't chop up saturated fats, your nerve cells are going to be destroyed and you're going to die. Okay? Now, what you may not know, and this is the part that you'll have to know for a test, is what goes on here. Inside this gene, what's happening? Here's what it looks like. If a gene is a good gene, then you can strip away some of the protein, and what you'll find is a section of DNA. And that's all a gene is. It's just a section of a DNA that has a starting point and an ending point. Okay? Now, in order for this gene to work, you first have to unzip it. Spread it open. And then after you spread that gene open, then you copy one of the strands. And that's what this blue line represents. It's a copy of this strand of the DNA molecule. And that copy is not in DNA, but in a molecule called RNA. Okay? So the DNA gets copied into the RNA. Then the RNA leaves the nucleus, goes outside of the nucleus, and gets translated by another special enzyme into a squiggly looking molecule called protein. So here's this enzyme, and it's just traveling right down this RNA molecule, and it's pumping out the squiggly thing called protein. Now what's the protein do? Well, the protein will attach to these long molecules of saturated fat and chop them up. And the only reason it'll do that is because there's too many of these saturated fats. And so it'll chop up the extras, and those chopped up saturated fat particles can be now filtered out by your kidneys, and then go into your urine, and then you pee them out. Okay? That's how you get rid of excess saturated fats. So that's how the gene works. Well, what's going on inside Lorenzo? Because we know that he's got a bad gene. Well, here's what's happening. Not all of his gene is bad. There's just a section of it that's been mutated. Okay? And so this is the same good gene. This is the same good gene. Here's the bad part. But your body doesn't know that it's bad. So when it comes time to copy it, it'll unzip just like it always did. And it'll get copied just like it always did. But the copying into messenger RNA is going to copy the good along with the bad. Okay? And then it'll go out to the cell, and the good part will form the protein the way it's supposed to look, and the bad part will form a protein that's different. So in the end, you'll make a protein that's mutated. It has looks like the other protein at the beginning, then here's a different part, and it looks like the other protein at the end. But the bottom line is, it doesn't work. This enzyme can't chop up the fatty acid, or the saturated fat. And that means the fats will increase, Lorenzo's going to die. That's a bunch of background information. Now let's get down to the bottom line. Why is Michaela the cause? Here's the reason why Michaela caused Lorenzo's disease. She's a woman. And because she's a woman, she has 2 X chromosomes. One of her X chromosomes has a bad ALD gene on it. The other X chromosome has a good ALD gene on it. That's why Michaela's not sick. And that's why we go through sexual reproduction. That's why we have 2 sets of chromosomes, one for mom and one for dad. Because if there's mistakes on one of the sets, the other set can cover it up. Okay? So Michaela's one carrier. Say, okay, well, what about dad? Well, here's what Lorenzo's dad is like. He's a male. So that means he has an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. And on his X chromosome way up here, his ALD gene is good. How do I know that? Because he doesn't have the disease. Okay? And so, how did Lorenzo get it? Well, the only way Lorenzo got it is from mom and dad having sex. And that's what married couples do. Okay? And whenever they have sex, Lorenzo's dad can make 2 different types of sperms. He can make sperms that have a Y chromosome or X chromosome with a good gene on it, or he can make a sperm which carries a Y chromosome, which doesn't have any ALD gene at all. Mom, on the other hand, she could make an egg that is perfectly normal and has a good ALD gene, or she can make an egg that has a bad ALD gene. And it just so happens as to which sperm fertilizes which egg. And so the month that they decided to have sex to get pregnant with Lorenzo, here's what happened. Dad produced a bunch of sperms that had good X chromosomes and a bunch of sperms that had Y chromosomes. Mom, unfortunately, produced this egg. And it was just by chance. Because the month before, she could have produced this type of an egg. And the month after, she could have produced this type of egg. But it just so happened that month, she produced that egg. And so you say, well, okay, well, that's no big deal. I mean, what if this sperm fertilized that bad egg? What would it look like? Well, it would look like a girl with a good gene and a bad gene. So just like Michaela, she would be a normal girl, but was a carrier. What happened was, this sperm is the one that fertilized this egg. And you ended up with an X chromosome with a bad gene and a Y. That's Lorenzo. So when you look at all these possible outcomes, on any given month, without knowing, there's a 75% chance that they're going to have a healthy kid. And only a 25% chance that they're going to have this disaster with Lorenzo. Okay? Mom and dad had no clue about this when they were talking to their geneticists. In fact, most people in the world today have no clue about this kind of stuff. And that's why still get transferred over. Okay? So that's the end of the film.